Right, so hi all, thanks for turning up for another episode of Project Pitch Player's Perspective. Gaspode, host for the hour, love playing games and currently run a YouTube channel that introduces users to new games via 60-second intros and first look reviews. I also play live games on YouTube and Twitch. The aim with this space is to help new gaming projects take a step back and consider their game from a player's perspective. The questions will hopefully give you something new to consider or a chance to re-articulate aspects of your project that you already have worked out. It will also help make sure you're making conscious decisions and not just sleepwalking into things, kind of following the crowd of what's happening in other projects. If you have a gaming project and you want to discuss it, please request to speak and I'll let people up. And we'll go through the projects kind of one at a time. You'll get some time to pitch the project, go over the different aspects of it, followed by some questions by any of the speakers up here. If anyone in the audience wants to come up and ask questions, just request to speak and I'll bring it up, or you can DM me and I'm happy to. Actually, if you DM Gaspod's intern, that'll be easier because then I can see it on my computer and I can always ask them if you're not able to come up. If you like what you hear from the games, make sure to follow them so you can keep up to date with what they're doing. As I mentioned, the space is going to be recorded, and at the end of it, I will be uploading it to YouTube with timestamps and sharing that just so it's a bit easier to share with your communities. I'll go into updates first from some of the ones that we've had up previously, and then we'll jump into our first project. So Astromust, who I think we all are aware of in some way, looking at the names, who's in here. They've moved their minting and they're now going to be minting on the 5th of August. They are currently doing Twitter space raids, which is why you can see Mr. Console sporting one of their PFPs at the moment. It looks like a lot of fun. I haven't been able to join in, mainly because I don't like the idea of changing my profile picture, but also I've just not been around when they've been doing them. But essentially what they've been doing is going into Twitter spaces, all with the matching profile picture, and then just asking about space stuff. By the sounds of it, it sounds like they're having a lot of fun. And I think at one point they managed to get 20 of you. Was it Mr. Console going in on one? I think that was the biggest Vincent mentioned. Yeah, so that sounds interesting. It's a novel way of doing it, I think.
Yeah, it's super cool. I really like Vincent. He's a leader leading by heart. There was this one time we were in a space and we were somewhat training, and he was on that 1, 2, 3. Then he states the emoji for us to throw up, and everybody who joined the space was greeted with like the emojis, and it was fun. It was cool. It's a great way to get the community synergized and just to have fun beyond the regular. And yeah, I'm rocking one of the PFPs. I like the mysterious look to it. Like you, I also just like keeping the same brand because it's somewhat what is recognizable beyond like the name. Guys would recognize the PFP, but I just want to support them all through just because they have great hearts. They're good people.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and I think it is a bit of fun. I think if I wasn't so easily confused about people with different profile pictures on a daily basis, I think I probably would have done it more often. But if you check out their Twitter, they do have a lot of screenshots of how many times they've managed to go into anyone's. And I am just going to pin to the top their their minting date. So I've just pinned that up at the top now. Another one that is kind of a resident of the space is WhackOMonster. WhackOMonster has recently just improved some of the back end work around the game to do with how the ads are tracked, just to make it easier for any of updating of the ads as well as getting more people involved within the game. I know that Safrutix, who were just here previously, they are currently up on the WhackOMonster ads, and I am also up there due to buying one of the NFTs. That's interesting. They also had a successful tournament who was won by People of Proxima with a total score of 994, which is now also the all-time highest score and is getting closer and closer to that elusive 1,000 that we're trying to I know me and one other were trying to get to that, but now People of Proximus seems to have come in and smashed straight through to the top. As well as that, they also still have their NFTs available on OpenSea. Yeah, Mr. Console?
What? Dude, POP got to 990. What? Did I hear
Yeah,
that correctly?
994.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that is like my previously highest one was 790. So that is a really, really good score that they brought through there. But yeah, so WhackOMonster, I've pinned to the top their kind of general idea about the project. They've gone Twitter quiet for the week because they've got some back end work to be getting on with. So they're trying not to get distracted by Twitter. So they've gone off into coding stealth camp, I think. So hopefully we'll see them back next week with some fun updates with the game. We also have another kind of resident project that comes up often, Galactic Mice. I think they're in one of their spaces right now. I think that's why we've not seen them. But they are going into a lot of spaces, doing a lot of community building. And if you haven't seen, they are currently started a partnership giveaway with Carnage Carnival, where they're giving away some of their NFTs, which I think they were saying the value of over $400. I'm not entirely sure how the values worked out and what it entails, but that is in kind of conjunction with Carnage Carnivals. I will pin that to the top. So that's what's going on over with them, Carnage. See, this is why I want to be able to do it on my phone, on my computer. Oh, no. And then lastly, not lastly, I've got a couple of others. Crypto Fight Club, which I mentioned previously. They have released their newest game as well, called Fight the Bear. So as well as being able to chase chickens, you can now fight the bear. It's not, the earnings haven't moved over to this new game mode. It is currently just the kind of testing week, but they will be moving on to that next week as well. So that will be changing. I've now pinned to the top the Carnage Carnival giveaway for Galactic Mice. So if you want, you can have a look at that. Oh, yeah, sorry, Mr. Gonzalez, somewhere else. You've got your hand up, yeah?
And how's our friend Zach doing?
Zach is doing well. I was chatting to him the other day on one of the streams. He was there. He's kind of moved off doing their spaces a little bit, and he's doing a couple of bit of their other work. So he hasn't been kind of out and about as much, but he seems to be doing good. Seems to be still seems to be happy. You know, always a cheery chap. So that's going well.
Yeah.
Let's see
For
here.
those who don't know, Zach is part of the Crypto Fight Club Society.
And he is the person who got me in touch with Mr. Console in a space a long time ago. Well, a long time ago in Web3, not a long time ago in the rest of the world. So I've posted their Fight the Bear to the top. We then have 3-Bit Tactics, who are in the audience, who came up last week. They have launched their servers, and I have played a lot of hours on their servers since going live. I would highly recommend going over and joining. They still somehow have the ridiculously low following of 25 followers, but the game is very good and I've really been enjoying it. And they have just released a new character as well. But I would definitely head on over to playing that. They are going to be having a tournament announcement later this week. So definitely worth getting over there and having a bit of a practice. And then last but not least, for the updates of people we've had here, Beyond Human by Henry Clay, who some of you may have met in spaces before, who's come along previously. They are launching their avatar tomorrow. We're using the in-game cogs, so that is something that will be going live tomorrow. It's a good game. I do enjoy that one. It's going to be interesting to see how their avatars are minted, because at the moment it's entirely off-chain. It's not been moved on-chain yet, and it's just using in-game currency, but eventually it will be getting moved on-chain. So let me just see where that one is as well. But that is kind of all the updates of everything that we've had from previous projects. And now we'll kind of move on to new projects. So I believe you're up, Golden, to... Oh, I'll go to Mr. Console first, and then we will move on. Yeah, Mr. Console?
No, actually, that's perfect. We can go to Golden. That's what I was going to ask.
Okay, yeah. So if you are happy to speak, Golden, and if that is why you're up here, we are interested in hearing about your project.
Okay, so this is the general pitch. What I'm creating is a game called Got Hands, and it's like, remember back in like the early 2000s, you had Got Milk. Well, nowadays, in like the urban community, they say like, if you can't fight, you ain't got no hands, or do you got hands to be talking junk like that? And so, what I'm making is a cross between an action RPG, a beat 'em up, and a fighting game. The basic gameplay loop will be: you will go into a procedurally generated map, and you have to either kill a boss or bosses, and the bosses will have loot. But then you have to extract in order to get the loot. Now, anything that you take with you, if you die before you complete your mission, you lose. And anything you take out can be printed as an NFT, and it the loot will come in forms of weapons, armor, crafting material, or scrolls. And what scrolls are, they are fighting styles. Like right now, on my development build, I have 6 styles. I have karate, kung fu, or excuse me, Wing Chun kung fu specifically, boxing, taekwondo, and a pro wrestling style, as well as numerous weapon arts. The combat it already consists of attacking, which consists of melee attacks, grappling, and special skills, like being able to shoot fireballs and stuff like that. And then defense. Defense gives you, you can dodge, you can block, you can parry, and certain special skills will give you different defensive abilities, like hyper armor and stuff like that. Combat comes in one form: melee. It can either be weapon based or unarmed martial arts. The game is played from a third person perspective, and it has um a Soulsborne feel. Like there's a stamina bar that you have to manage between attacks and stuff like that. There's a PvP component that consists of like 1v1 fighting and 5v5 team fighting. And I was thinking about implementing like a battle royale style where you would just drop down with your martial arts, and then if you win, whatever you have on you, you can take with you. But you only drop down with one martial art style. There's several other things, but that's the overall premise. The NFT aspect of it is your armor could be NFT. The armor will be NFTs. Your combat styles could be NFTs. Like if you can, it's gonna have like a trading card feel almost, or like if you extract, like say you already own boxing. Well, if you get like 5 different boxing skills, you can level that one boxing skill up. It would burn the other 4 boxing skills, and then create a 5th one that's a level 2 boxing skill, and so forth and so on. And so the main goal is to power yourself up so that you can continue to go on, do more dungeons or do PvP, and have a more powerful fighter. The game will consist of a created character, and when you create your character, that's you minting your NFT. And so that's the overall idea I have in mind for my game specifically.
Oh no, that sounds really interesting. And I know I was following along on your Twitter previously, but how's everything going? So I know you're developing it like all solo.
Well, I'm in the middle of like, artificial intelligence is my weak point, and I have several builds where it's all built differently, and the AI is where the weakness is. Right now, I went back to an older build that was a working game, and trying to get the AI to be more aggressive as it was in the second build that's built differently. Because I develop in the Unreal Engine, and the Unreal Engine has two different ways you can do artificial intelligence. One is through blueprints, and the other is through this thing called a blackboard system. Now, because I'm terrible with AI, honestly, I'm trying to just get it to function exactly how I want, where it's hard but fair, and certain things break depending on how you do it. And so that's just what I'm in the process of doing now. Eventually, hopefully, I can acquire other teammates. But right now, I'm solo developing because I want to have something to bring to the table before I could bring somebody in. Because I tell people all the time in different Twitter spaces, if you want to build a game, don't be like, oh, I have this idea. You want to develop it for me? No, go out and develop what you want, and then be like, this is what I have. I need help perfecting it. And so that's where I'm at right now. I haven't thought of doing the blockchain part of it yet because I'm not a blockchain developer. I just want to do things the right way and develop the game first.
No, that sounds really good. And just in case, I think I might have missed it. How does the AI fit in with it? I thought you were saying it was PvP, or have I missed something? Sorry.
Okay, so there's two modes. There's a PvP mode and there's a
Ah,
PvE
okay.
mode.
And which do you think will be? This is probably just a random question. Which do you think will end up being the most played version?
It depends on how skilled people are, because PVE helps you power your character up, but PvP is like bragging rights. It's like if you've played any type of fighting game, like it's fun fighting the computer, but then you want to fight actual opponents, and so it's designed with maybe an esports in mind, because I come from the fighting game community more than anything, and I like fighting games personally, and so it's you get your items in the PVE mode, but if you're a good enough fighter, then you can get items that way as well.
Oh, okay. So I'm saying the PvE side is kind of training you as a player, but you would also be training your kind of avatar in the sense of getting equipment for it ready to then jump into the PvP ring.
Yes, and then eventually I want to do a PVE VP mode where you could send two teams. This is farther down the line, but two teams can go down with the same objective, but they have to extract one by somebody has to extract what they get, what the mission is. And so that would be a PVE VP mode where you could fight the boss, but you also have to zone off a team at the same time.
Now that sounds like some really interesting developments with what you can do with the same kind of rigging and stuff that you'd have for the other game mode. Yeah. We've got a question from My Worst, but I can't see the rest of your name, so you're called My Worst for now.
It doesn't get much better. It's my worst enemy, but most people call me enemy. Golden. I just one of my favorite games I was really hooked on when I was younger was called Rumble Fighter. And it sounds very similar. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It still actually exists. It just got acquired by different companies, and it's kind of just like a cash grab at this point. But there's been a loyal fan base keeping it alive for over a decade now. And but it's like it's more it's low poly. It's from back in the day, so it's not super high renders or anything. But the feature set and what you're talking about is pretty similar. Like you buy scroll, there is a PVE that came out pretty much later, but it wasn't really fully fleshed out by that time. The game had already been changed hands several times. But they did have like a PVE, and you like earn in-game currency to buy more like scrolls, like, and as well as like cosmetic items and things like that. But all the scrolls were like legit like fighting styles, like shoot boxing, or shoot wrestling, boxing, and they came out with like more fantastical stuff. But they have like it was rooted in martial arts like Wing Chun. They have Mao Gong, Bagua, things like that. I've also been like looking into what it would look like to develop a game like what you're talking about. So I would love to hear more about it, see what's going on, just as just as somebody who's curious or and wants to do something in the same vein. Maybe there's some overlap. We could work together on some stuff. So I'm not like a full stack. I'm not like an actual dev or anything. I'm more just like I have designed like board games and mods for different games, but I just love video games. I also love martial arts and all that stuff. So let me know if I can see more of what you got going on.
Well, I'll pin it to the top. I'll show you. I can show off a little bit of what Got Hands has. I'll pin some of the things that's there. But I've never even heard of Rumble Fighter. But as soon as you said it, I like I'm sitting in front of my computer, so I googled it because if it sounds exactly like what I'm trying to do, then it's like, damn, I might not have never developed this game because I've always wanted to make my dream game. Going back to, I don't know if you've ever heard of a game called River City Ransom, and
Oh, bro, yeah, for sure.
so River City Ransom, you could buy scrolls and it would change the way your character reacted. And so I also developed a love for this game called Def Jam Fight for New York. So a lot of the fighting style
Yes.
is I basically combined like a Souls-like combat with Def Jam Fight for New York so far. It's not as polished as Def Jam Fight for New York, but it's like as far as the grappling goes, but it's getting there. And then it's just taking all my experiences from playing beat 'em ups and fighting games, and then wrote action RPGs and things like that to develop like a consistent world. Because I also fell in love with like Destiny 2 or Destiny 1, but I just didn't like the progression. So it's just taking a bunch of game mechanics that I felt were incomplete and completing them. Like, because I also liked Absolver, but once you finish the game, there's nothing to do except for PvP. And if they would have developed the roguelike parts of it, like that they added like 2 years after the fact, which came from me, by the way, because it was my influence on that community that got them to develop the last thing they developed onto Absolver before they moved to Sifu.
Dude,
Like
and look how well Sifu did when they kind of took all of the feedback and the development they learned from Absolver. Like Sifu is fucking, arguably one of the better games of the last few years. And I just want to say I would love to, because I'm big on martial arts, so I've been designing a card game, which, when I thought of NFTs, it's like, well, they're basically cards. Like it's like they're trading cards, right? And so I'm a big fan of card games as well, but for me, almost all games are rooted in tabletop one way or another, right? Whether it's the mechanics or the design and all those things. So, and I've definitely played all the games that you're talking about. Def Jam is goated, dude. I fucking love that game. I actually made a reference to it randomly at one point in the last like month or so. And no, not many people know about those games though. And in the new day and age, especially in NFT and Web3 gaming, it's like I've been saying everyone's trying to like either copy shit that they're not really innovating, they're just kind of copying things and trying to make as much money as they can off of it, or they're trying to make something new which isn't actually new because they don't know what has existed already. And it's like, yeah, like I think the best thing we could do is like we should be exploring what has been done and what has been done well, and then like what you're trying to do, which is bring the best parts of different genres together, which is a very difficult thing to do. But if you do it well, and if you are able to connect the dots, so to speak, and that's what I love doing, is just kind of combining the aspects from different games that I like. I think where the magic happens. But definitely check out Rumble Fighter. You can give it a play. I don't know what kind of graphics you're doing, but it definitely sounds in the same vein of what you're trying to do. And yeah, I would love to just see. I mean, I don't even. I'll just bounce ideas off you, see if you take them. That's basically what I do.
Yeah,
Sounds great. Sounds great.
that's really cool, and I like a lot of what you were saying. I do just want to jump onto one of the bits you said about people building stuff without knowing what's gone before. I think people seem to think that Web3 is a whole new thing, and it is new, but games have been developed before in Web2, and I think more projects would definitely benefit from, like you guys have just been chatting a lot of the history around similar games from Web2. If you just ignored all that and tried to start from scratch, you wouldn't have the same product that you'll get because of knowing the history of it. So I do think that a lot of projects could learn from using what's gone before in Web2. So I think that's a great point. I'm just, oh yeah, you've just pinned the bit at the top there, haven't you? Golden. I'm just checking my
Yeah.
other bits.
I
I
just
had a
pinned
few.
a couple of the things. What I'm working on now is the combat prototype because I'm more like I developed the gameplay first, like the gameplay and everything else, like the crafting system and all of that will have to be built out. And I don't even know where to begin with that stuff just yet. It's just all in the game design document, and I know you have to It's like building a castle. You have to layer it one brick at a time. So once I'm completely satisfied with the combat, then I have to move on to the next thing, which would probably be the perfecting the procedural generation for the PvE side, because all the PvP stuff is basically done. It's not completely done because I have to like do level creation and stuff like that, but it's very like as far as the overall design, all of that is done. I just have to do a couple more things outside of the combat as far as the gameplay itself, because I feel like gameplay is what attracts anybody to any game, and if the gameplay sucks, then it doesn't matter how good the gameplay is if the gameplay itself is terrible. So that's as far as my design philosophy goes.
No, sorry, my bad.
No, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was like, I really, yeah, no, like that's the philosophy that I think everyone should carry, and I think a lot of people here do carry, from what I understand. It's like, first of all, like you don't want the monetary compensation to be the feedback loop, right? You want the gameplay to be enjoyable. You want to be people to be hooked because they are engaged in what you've designed mechanically, right, and theoretically. You want that first and foremost core component, and I think that's at the core, that's what makes games successful. And it's the funny thing in the industry with standard, where they're usually accommodating kind of like shitty practices in a lot of way, instead of like just doing sick gameplay first and foremost. So I really respect that. And I wanted to say, like, if you like what you just showed as an example, like I can totally see what you're trying, like if you can do that and then add things of like inspired by like Yakuza or like you said, Def Jam, where like environmental like takedowns, or even Absolver, where there's like different stuff, like it would be pretty fire.
Oh yeah, I didn't even show off like I have a TikTok as well, but that it's all from like last year and stuff, where I was showing like the actual like fighting, like the heavy attacks and the light attacks and stuff like that. But you lock on, like you would think it's closer to like it's closer to Absolver as far as the way the melee attacks go, but the grabbing straight from Def Jam Fight from New York. And then there's an ability system, but that's not quite worked out visually. The effects are there to be able to damage people, but I don't have the visual effects down pat completely. So when I do release when I'm finished with this and release a combat prototype, the ability system might not make the cut for the first prototype.
And just to add on to part of that, I think it's good that the same way that you are building the game first, you've got the sense of what you want from the NFTs and crypto and Web3, and what how it can actually just add value for the game, rather than building a game that relies entirely on its selling point being that it's Web3. So I do think that'll be good. And I think eventually, like you say, you'll flesh yourself out with a team. And I think it's a good way of having the good kind of design up front and the good ideas up front. I know he's not in here now, but he was here to start with. But Crypto Folk, who's from Sophronics, said that that's kind of how they started. They had a very strong idea around how the game was going to be built, even if they couldn't build it entirely themselves. But because they had such a clear vision of it and had that kind of articulated well, it made it a lot easier when they tried to get a team. Whereas if you've only got, like you're saying, if you just had a small idea and weren't able to articulate it to the team, it would definitely be harder to kind of end up getting the vision that you had from the start. So I think it sounds like you've got good things planned. And I've been following you since the first space we found in, but I am definitely looking forward to seeing how it kind of all progresses. I'm seeing if I've got any more questions. Captain Zach, got a question?
No, not really a question. Just kind of wanted to put my viewpoint out there. I definitely agree with everything that was being said here. I think that another thing to kind of elaborate, I forget who brought up the monetization, but one thing that you really have to keep in mind as far as like designing your monetary model is that if you have basically a dilemma between bringing in new players and bringing monetary value to existing players, and it's hard to design something that accommodates both. For instance, if you look at Axie Infinity is just the biggest example. If you have someone that is able to generate new Axies by playing the game, and able to sell some of the axes that they breed and generate, etc. If they are scarce enough that those axes cost a lot of money, then it costs a lot of money for a new player to get in and buy the axes that they need to start playing the game. And if you design it where there's much less scarcity, there's more axes available to go around per player, then the players who are playing are less able to earn income on that resource because it's less scarce. So if you're marketing your game from a perspective of like you can make an actual living wage by playing it, which is a very dubious thing to start from, you're really not able to accomplish that in a way that is accessible to new players. From what I've seen, I've never really seen a design that truly is able to do both. So
I just want to comment on that.
Can I answer that really fast?
Yeah, go ahead.
If you don't mind my worst enemy. All right, so I am. The other part I added was the PvP modes can be taken to an esport. I'm not saying you could play to earn. My philosophy has always been play to own. And so I'm trying to create like a great Web3 game and a great Web3 fighting game / RPG. And so I don't think anybody will be able to, outside of like the top players who might be able to Twitch stream it or might be able to do tournaments and stuff like that. And, then you could generate a profit where you play against other players who are equally skilled for like a tournament type setting. But my philosophy is Web 2 based almost. Like, remember when like you went to GameStop and you bought a used game, but you brought back 2 of your new games? So when you're done playing the game, you just try to cash out, I guess, to play something different. And so my philosophy, which is different than a lot of people's philosophy, is based off of my experience as a gamer. Is I'll play a game, I'll get bored with it, but I'll sell it and buy another game. Whereas in this game, you could sell some of your assets, go play something else, and then hey, I did a new expansion. There's new map tiles. There's new fighting styles. There's a whole bunch of new content. Hey, I can go ahead and take my character because I did sell my character. I can come back into the game, or I can just mint a new character because there will be a create a character mode where you can create your character, and that's going to be like somewhere around 20 to 40 US dollars. I'll peg it to that amount of money, and boom, you can get in and play again. You know, um, it's based off of just playing a game, and if you get sick of it, you go buy something else. It's not something.
I really gotta like interject, just because like I think everyone, and I don't know why everyone does this in Web3, but everyone really overlooks the free to play model that like has been what some of the most successful games that exist in the industry right now, which is like League of Legends, Apex Legends. Well, Apex Legends wasn't free all the time, but all these games are like free to play, and they are fucking killing it. They've been killing it for almost a decade in some cases. So like don't make it a fucking gated thing. Make it free to play where they can earn not advantages in PvP, but since you have PvE, you can actually give them advantages in that regard where they can develop a character, like you said, create custom characters and cosmetics, which don't affect PvP gameplay. But like there is 100% like several models that actually work in terms of favoring both committed and new players, and they literally are slapping the industry in the face. And I just think it's kind of goofy to overlook, just to think that there is no balance, because there clearly is. And I played League of Legends for like 4 years religiously when it first came out from beta and into it, and it's still going. That was like over 10 years ago. So, and that's a free to play model, and where they and set if you want to develop into Web3, the NFTs allow you to own your skins and then sell them. You can have people who can play to earn you rare skins, rare and unique skins. You can even have people make their own skins and put it on your platform, and then that can be your play to earn model. You can have people who win tournaments who are very skilled and committed. They can create their own characters and then sell them as NFTs. There's so many ways to do it, and I just think it's I had to say something because there are things that exist that clearly have a balance.
I think
agree with you.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think I agree with those statements. I think that's more of the idea of you're earning because you gain assets from play rather than gaining tokens. And I think gaining assets and then having to sell them via a marketplace has less of the pitfalls of giving tokens out and then needing liquidity to change the tokens. Granted, you need liquidity on the marketplace, you're never going to sell your NFT, but it's more stable, and holding those NFTs that are in game is likely, not always, but likely to be less speculative than people who just buy into the token, because there's always those problems. I'll just go to Captain Zach, and then there was a couple of things you mentioned, Golden, that I do want to pick up on. To do with your game, and then we'll head on round to Vincent, and I see Wax here as well. Both Vincent and Wacko, I have already shilled both of you, and you are pinned to the top. Even I did you at the start, but I will come back around to you after we go to Captain, and then I've got a couple of questions for Golden.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I agree with you like 90%, but I kind of want to be devil's advocate here for a second. One of the core differences when we're comparing Web 2 to Web 3 is that Web 3 really conveys ownership of your assets, and you want players, in many cases you want players to act with their in-game things, whatever they are, as though they are items that they own. There are a lot of sort of parallels that work there, and if you give them certain things for free, it doesn't necessarily feel like something they own, depending on what it is. So I do agree. I think generally free to play is a good thing to do. I think that most games should be looking at it more, but I think there's also potentially value in just a small level of purchase for people. Again, maybe it's a $5 entry to get into a game, just because that little bit lets them feel more like they own what they have, and that what they have has value, and that what other people interacting in that economy their things have value. If you have a secondary marketplace where players buy and sell from each other, you want to make sure that they value the things that other people have, so that they are willing to exchange actual tokens or money, or whatever you want to see it, economic value for those things. So like I with the game that I'm making, I make a lot of comparisons to traditional trading card games, right? And those have limited access, promotional events where sometimes you'll get cards for free, but generally you pay 5, 10, 15 bucks or whatever for a starter deck of cards to get into the game, or you get someone to give you some of their old cards, and that's how you get into the game. So even though your entry was free, it was because somebody else gave you something that they bought, and you come in with an understanding that even though you got it for free, it has value because of that. So I think there's definitely more granular models that we can take what's valuable from free to play, but still instill the value in the player base as well. They value the assets.
I just wanted to say that
Splinterland is a great example of that. Sorry, Splinterland is a great example of that.
Yeah. Free to play isn't all free to play, by the way. Like, it's free to start playing most of the time. Another great example of what the granular difference we'd be talking about is gacha games. And gacha games I don't actually like. I think they're predatory. But I was like, in NFTs, you could actually make it profitable. You can make it so that people aren't throwing their money away at something, but still get that fucking that what you just described, that value of putting money in and winning something that's rare, which is essentially what you just described as card packs. But again, gacha games exist, for one, and they are one of the most lucrative gaming models in the industry. And so it's just like, yeah, they exist, and I think gacha games is. I still don't understand why nobody's made it yet, because that is literally one of the most effective game models so far, because it does use psychology, and it does do that FOMO with the rarity and all that things, and that's exactly what I was kind of, that's what I was hinting at, is like, there are these models that all you got to do is you not just take it word for word, but adapt it to your values and your Web3 mechanics.
Yeah, that's all good. Vincent, are you coming in with a question around this bit or something separate? Because I do have 2 follow-up questions for Golden.
So no, I just basically wanted to agree with my worst enemy, because I'd actually high in my worst enemy. I've never been on space with you, but I totally agree with his way of looking at things. I think the aspect of free to play, it's very key. Obviously, that's the way that everybody like to try to engage with anything without being too much involved, and like very low barrier of entry. In marketing, we call that a forever spring, and this is what we try to do as well in our project. But obviously, I don't want to say that for chilling, but I think it's very key to integrate that in projects. I think it's the way to get engagement with the way that it's kind of broad entry.
Yeah, that sounds really good as well. And I think there's all these different models in it. I think more models now will be tested out than they were being tested at the start when money was easy and flowing around everywhere. I think that's why, as you're mentioning, my worst enemy, that there was a lot of these models that no one's even looked at because they didn't need to. The printing tokens because you were continuously getting more players was working. It doesn't work now, and it was never going to be sustainable because it's just Ponzi. But whilst it was working, there wasn't any kind of incentive or drive. Not for all projects. Some projects did go out and start doing more different models, but for those just looking to have the short-term success, there was no need to try anything different when they could just use what was already there. Just to circle back to Golden and just got hands. We've touched a little bit on kind of where you see the final future of the game and tournaments and esports and that. So in kind of like 2 years' time, once it's all done, all built, what would be kind of like your kind of end point around it? Would you be seeing loads of esports tournaments? Would you want it that this is something that's big through content creation, through Twitch and YouTube to bring more audiences in? What's your 2 years, this is looking good kind of projection?
Yes, that is a good thing. I would like to see tournaments and stuff like that going on. To be honest, there's this great book. I don't like if you're a game developer in Web3. I I will say people should be reading Chinese web novels, specifically on like RPGs and stuff like that. And the one I'm quoting specifically myself is this. It's called King's Avatar, and King's Avatar, like it's a combination between in game and the esports. Like anything you like to build your character up, you have to bring them in game. And like there's different gaming groups that have teams, but to build their characters up, they still have to send them into the game to get items and stuff like that for crafting materials and things of that nature. And so a lot of what I'm thinking and what I'm envisioning is a game that works in conjunction with the esport. Um, that is if it gets popular enough. If it doesn't get popular enough for an esport, but there's still a sizable community that's playing the game on a daily basis, then I'm just still always going to be focused on constantly expanding, adding new martial arts, adding new environments, adding new bosses, adding variations to the martial arts styles, so that there's more than one way to play the game, and that's my goal, is to constantly, continuously expand the game.
No, that sounds really good, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm definitely looking forward to being able to play it. The videos that you've been putting up and the gameplay you've been describing sound really interesting. I'm glad you put the videos up because initially when I was trying to picture how you were describing it, I wasn't quite getting it. But with the clips, it makes a lot more sense. And I think what you were saying, um, I just haven't played some of the games you were mentioning, so I was missing the references. But no, with it there, I do think it looks good. We've got some hands up. I think it was Vincent first.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you a question that I mean, I ask myself, but I ask also other games. It's more like on the trying to challenge us. I guess I'm doing my Mr. Console guy, trying to challenge each other. Basically, this is my challenge. So, in if the game is all like, I guess like a regular game, and the NFTs are it's literally just mapping the assets of the game. What is the main utility to have the game on blockchain rather than to have it a standard Web2? That's the question I've been asking myself in other games. Like, what's the fundamental difference that the adaptation to Web3 about the game?
It's for you to own your items. So that, like, okay, so we know there's this thing called games as a service, right? In the traditional Web 2 to Arena, right? And they can change your terms and conditions. They can do a whole bunch of other things to your in-game items, And so that sucks. Like for them to for games to even go out of business. Like I'm also doing some other things that I'm not going to speak on right now, but I'm doing some other things to ensure that the utility of the game, the utility of the NFTs are to use them in the game to have a stronger character, to be able to do harder content. That's the utility. You can sell them when you're no longer using them. Like if you like, say you like the boxing style, and say I come out with Krav Maga or something like that, and you fall in love with the Krav Maga style and you no longer use the boxing style, you can sell that to somebody. Like say it's like a level 10 boxing style, you can sell that to somebody or trade it to somebody for like a Krav Maga skill, and then go try to farm the Krav Maga skill and build that up. So the utility of the in-game NFTs, whether it's your armor, whether it's your weapons, because there are weapon styles as well. You can sell them, or you can break them down to make them stronger. So that's the utility behind everything, is just for in-game usage. Not there won't be staking and all that stuff that I don't really care about. It's just really going to be about the game and what you can do with your items. And if you no longer need them, or you no longer want to play the game, you have an ability to cash out.
I think I get it. So here's my argument. If all your NFTs utility are in your game related, then again, what's the point to have them on chain?
Um, the point to have them on chain is so that you can cash out. Because if it's not on chain, then you can't cash out unless you sell. Like there's ways to sell your account and stuff like that, but you have to jump through hoops. Like if I'm playing like World of Warcraft or something like that, and I want to sell some items to somebody for actual money, I have to jump through hoops to actually do that to cash out of World of Warcraft. Whereas on chain, if I want to get rid of the game, I don't have to. I don't have to go through these steps.
Definitely enjoying the line of questioning, and I know this is something I've been thinking about a little bit, especially when where you probably all have seen on the Twitter threads discussing whether Web3 has to include play to earn to be Web3 or not, and the kind of ownership side is what comes up quite often. And I'm still on the fence how much some people will enjoy the ownership side, but Golden started touching it near the end there, which I think is the main kind of draw for it. And it could be done with Web2. It could. It just, I think it's stronger being done with Web3, and that's the peer-to-peer trading in a safe manner. So someone's trying to sell you the rare boxing glove that they won in Got Hands. You can see that they own it. You can see which wallet address has it, and you can see that they are able to trade it because, I don't know, it's not with someone else for another reason. You can then set it up, especially if the game is complicit in the peer-to-peer trading, and that sounds like the wrong word to use, but essentially promoting the peer-to-peer trading. You can then have it that this all happens via smart contracts. So there's no trust, there's no kind of black market for WoW gold or WoW equipment. It's all done in a way that people are able to trust in essentially the ledger. And you could do that Web2. You could have a really secure marketplace that has a list of every transactions and kind of has every item linked to an in-game kind of account. But I think that's done better via Web3 and via the blockchain with the ledger, only if it's done on a chain where you're not going to get absolutely railed by gas fees, though. Obviously, if you're going to get railed by gas fees, you'd be better just doing a Web2 version. But we've had some hands pop up. I think it was Vincent first and then Galactic. Just a quick thing before we go to Vincent. For anyone who has joined us recently, thanks for joining the, I think we're the third episode of the Project Pitch Players Perspective. I'm Gaspode, hosting it, to introduce new users to games via 60-second intros and first look reviews. I play live games on YouTube and Twitch. The aim of this space is to help new gaming projects take a step back and consider their game from a player's perspective. This week we've had Golden up, and we did have a couple more on the books, but they haven't seemed to turn up. We do try and get through several projects, normally between 3 and 5 a week, and we just go over what they're offering, ask questions from the speakers, just to help them consider different aspects of their game and how it's best to reach their audience of gamers, because the majority of the people who join us here are gamers. We will be recording this and it will be going on YouTube with timestamps, so it's easier to share for people amongst their different communities as it goes out. So if you're saying anything you don't want recording, don't say it, essentially. But no, thanks all for coming. And if you like any of the games that have been up before, we did an update at the start to do with some of the games that have been up previously. So there's quite a lot of pinned tweets across the top. So if you go through and have a look at those, and you can find out about some of the games we've had up previously. But I'll just go to Vincent.
Yes. Basically, I wanted to ask a question to Golden. Is your game from what I understand, is a fighting game? So I guess you have like 3D avatars for a game, isn't it?
Correct.
So
and it's
it's
more than just a fighting game. I can't explain it because there hasn't been anything like this. There's been a bunch of things that came close, but nothing quite like this, where it's more of a beat 'em up or a hack and slash combined, which was the precursor to a fighting games, and it's right in between where nobody made the tweener game. The last one that was close to it was Absolver, and the only one before that, only two before that, were Scott Pilgrim vs. the World and River City Ransom, that combined fighting game aspects but didn't actually quite get it right. I mean, there's another game called Guardian Heroes that technically is called a fighting RPG, but that's the genre that I'm creating, is a fighting RPG.
I think that one of the best way you put it, I don't know if you thought of that, is can your avatars like cross potentially to other games?
Yes, that's something I'm in the works with. Maybe not crossing the avatars, but crossing the items or maybe the crafting material. But that's something I'm working on with other projects at the moment. But it's, everybody's trying to do their own thing. But I'm trying to like get down with five different games at this in particular moment, where we can discuss if it fits to bring the characters. If it doesn't fit to bring the characters, then the items or the crafting material could be potentially shared between different games.
Cool, man. If you're interested in like looking into like how to like, I've been working on that as well. Like if you're trying to cross assets, I mean not assets, but like avatars to other games altogether, yeah, feel free to hit me up, man. I think it's a good use case for for the Web3 games in general.
No, that sounds really cool, and I think that's an interesting way to go about it. Definitely, I know a lot of projects are looking into that, and I'm quite interested to see. Obviously, if it makes sense, like you don't want someone who's a plane ending up, I don't know, punching someone, because that doesn't make sense. But as long as they're the same kind of item, I think interoperability should be interesting. Galactic, you have your hand up. I have already shilled your Carnage Carnival, but you can re-shill it as well.
No, I'm just touching base on obviously the on-chain thing. The only place where your NFT is stored on-chain is BSV. Otherwise, it's stored in the cloud, and you actually don't own the NFT. So you're not actually holding an NFT; you're just holding a transaction. But on the BSV, actually, your NFT is stored on-chain, which actually you own. So if we're going about on-chain and ownership, it would definitely be BSV is a place to be.
Well, technically that's true, but if your NFT, it also exists on your database per game, because your NFT can exist anywhere. It could be anything. But if you have no play, like if your NFT has utility, it has to exist on that particular game's database in order for it to be used. So that's the other aspect of it.
Yeah, 100%. But the good thing about BSV, if it's stolen or anything, they can show proof of ownership. Obviously, because it's all on chain. Where if you're stolen, if let's say your Bored Ape stolen on Ethereum chain, you can't show proof of ownership. So that's the only downfall. So security wise for your NFTs and stuff, it's definitely worth being on BSV if you are ever worried about it.
Yeah, I'm thinking about AVAX just because of the well, I'm not thinking. I'm like 99.9% sure I'm going to AVAX, and that's just because of the ability to subnet and being able to partner with other games.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I do like the look of AVAX as well. I've been following it recently, especially with the growth that's been happening there. Same with Polygon Alliance has been growing. Also Crow's also getting a lot of traction, especially the NFT. Wouldn't say the gaming side, but I think that is the next step in the Crow family for sure.
But thanks, Tom. I was saying that you guys have been really busy at the moment, Galactic. Seeing loads of stuff going on, especially with the Carnage Carnival, which I'm definitely going to win. So you guys can follow the pinned tweet, but it's going to be me.
I mean, honestly, I mean, I got in a meeting today at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, I think, and I literally got out about 15 minutes ago. I mean, meetings after meetings. We've got VCs, we've got, partnership. I mean, you name it, and I mean, we're kind of there, and it's been manic, but everything's slowly coming together, which is nice. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel now, and I mean, everything's kind of paperwork's getting signed off, things are getting signed off, and it's just looking like we're getting somewhere. Because at the moment, it's just like you got to do this, got to do that, but when it all starts coming together, it's a good feeling, and it's worth the stress and time for sure.
No, that sounds really good, and I would definitely recommend people to be not a mouse but a Pika ninja slashing through enemies. I was playing it again the other day, and it's still there. I still enjoy it.
Yeah, just got some updates on that actually. So like I said to you, we've got the leaderboard, we've got 360 play coming into the game as well, the next update. So you have 360 play, now it's back and forth, we've got that coming. We've got a boss level as well, so once you completed the hard level, boss level is going to come, because Slasher keeps completing the hard level, so we've got
I was going to say, is that just for him?
So we've got that coming as well. Like I said, weekly challenges. So we've got leaderboards, but then obviously we're in talks with gaming studio to do arena matches, so you can play with your friends and obviously battle waves, like almost like zombies, but in a waves for obviously killing cyber dogs. So yeah, so multiplayer's coming in, but yeah, it's looking good. All looking positive. It's just I can't wait for it to be released, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it will do well. I think you're doing loads of the community work right now. And I think the game's really interesting as well. So I think I'm positive for you.
I appreciate it. Like I said, everyone in here's also got something cool like going on. So it's cool to see other projects growing, especially in this space. I mean, there's a lot going on, but not much going on. A lot of talk, but people are walking the walk in here, which I like to see. Anyone can talk the talk, but I like to see products being made, which is nice to see from all of you.
Yeah, 100%. And on that note, does anyone else want to talk about their project before we wrap up for the day? Anyone got any?
I've got one question.
Yep.
I missed the 3-bit tactics. Any more update on that?
They are live. Their server is live and playable, and I have played probably about 8 hours now since they went live on Wednesday. pretty much trapping the two devs to play. Oh, he's coming up now. So I won't say him anymore, and they can speak on it themselves. Oh, they did come up. Yeah, there we are. You were here.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, you good?
Beautiful. Thanks so much for the shout out earlier. And yeah, just to give a quick update, we launched 3 new characters today. So we have 14 playable in game. Alpha's going good. We've been chasing some elusive bugs and hopefully have those wrapped up. And this weekend we'd like to do a tournament to kind of get the word out and have a little Solana prize, most likely. So yeah, if you want to give it a try, then I'm going to be on the servers right after this playing, and my brother should be there. He's also the co-founder. And yeah, we hope to see you guys there.
Just a quick question. Are you thinking of going to mobile anytime soon, or are you going to stay on desktop?
Definitely something we want to do later. again, we're still just full game design. And then we're going to go to a polishing phase in beta. And at that point, we would look to go mobile, but definitely feasible. We come from a mobile game studio, so it'd be not that difficult to do. And yeah, hopefully later, but not something we're going to do anytime soon.
No, thank you. I look forward to seeing it.
Sweet, thank you.
I know, and if you want to watch loads of hours of me starting off quite well, but then recently they've been farming me for points on the leaderboard. I'm interested to see the new characters as well. They should be good. The videos look good that you posted on, was it B Spinner or something like that?
The Gyro
just butchering
B.
the name probably.
Yeah.
Gyro B. I was close.
He's good. Yeah, the new one's definitely added new dynamic. Even just one new character will change the meta completely. So yeah, I'm excited to see what we come up with.
Yeah, and if you haven't followed them, go and follow them because they're still only on 25 followers somehow. Like, just painful.
26.
We're getting there. We're growing slowly but surely.
Yeah, but that's all good, and thanks for the updates, everyone. I think we'll probably wrap it up there. We haven't got any more coming through. We did have a couple more who said they were interested. I had one. I'm gonna have to check through my messages. Had one which was kind of a casino that wanted to come up and talk about it. They asked if it was all right because they weren't sure if they counted as gaming, and I thought their whole idea sounded quite interesting, whether it was gaming or not. So they were going to come, but they haven't turned up. So maybe next week we'll hear from making a casino a game ? Because I said it needs to be more than slots and dice for me to call it a game that could come up. And they said it was. So I was interested to see how they were going to make gambling more of a game. And then there's a couple more that have been lined up for next week as well that I've been chatting with in Discords. So we'll have a few more projects. And then obviously we're always happy to hear from our resident projects who have been up previously, and I will continue to do an update as I lurk in all of your Discords for any announcements that come through. But no, thanks all for coming. Hopefully it shouldn't take me long to edit the YouTube video. Last week's took a lot longer because we kept getting rugged by Twitter Spaces, so I had to do a lot more editing. But I'll try and get it up probably before the end of the week with some timestamps around the different games and topics that we talked of. But until then, I will catch everyone next week for the next Twitter Space, and I'm sure that I will find a lot of you in all the other Twitter Spaces that we lurk in. So thanks all for coming, and I'll catch you all in a bit. Bye now.